What if you could understand what someone is thinking, without them ever saying a word? Imagine walking into a room and instantly sensing the energy, reading the unspoken emotions behind every smile, and knowing when someone's words don't match their true feelings. The art of reading minds isn't about magic or manipulation, it's about unlocking the invisible language we all speak: body language, facial expressions, tone, and micro-behaviors that reveal the truth beneath the surface. In a world driven by communication, those who can interpret the hidden cues of others hold a distinct advantage. Whether in business, relationships, negotiations, or casual conversation, this book shows you how to quietly tune into the nonverbal signals that people unintentionally send every moment. This audiobook summary offers a step-by-step guide to help you sharpen your intuitive skills and develop the ability to understand people deeply and authentically. From establishing trust and building rapport to detecting deception and influencing outcomes, every chapter equips you with psychological tools for real-life use. By the end of this journey, you'll not only improve how you connect with others, you'll start to see the world in a completely different way. Welcome to the hidden side of human interaction. Chapter 1. Mind reading. Mind reading. It's a phrase that instantly sparks curiosity, often wrapped in mystery and skepticism. But when stripped of fantasy, mind reading is less about the supernatural and more about understanding the subtle signals that others unconsciously reveal. It's about recognizing patterns in behavior, interpreting emotions from expressions, and decoding the real meaning behind words. Everyone, in fact, is already a mind reader. To some degree, we often sense when someone is uncomfortable, hiding something, or pretending to be fine. The goal is to take this natural ability and refine it into a reliable skill. The foundation of mind reading lies in nonverbal communication. Studies show that only a small portion of our communication comes from words. The rest? It's all in body language, tone of voice, posture, eye movement, and even breathing patterns. People constantly send signals. They just don't realize they're doing it. Learning to read these signals is like tuning into a different frequency, where actions speak louder than words. At the heart of this skill is the ability to observe without judgment. It's not about jumping to conclusions or diagnosing others. Instead, it's about being fully present, quietly watching for subtle cues: a raised eyebrow, a crossed arm, a shifting foot. These micro-movements often tell the truth more accurately than what someone is saying. However, observation alone isn't enough. Effective mind reading requires context. A person crossing their arms might be cold, not defensive. A yawn might be boredom, or just fatigue. That's why understanding clusters of behavior is key. One gesture means little, but when several nonverbal signs align, the message becomes clearer. The skill is about noticing patterns, not single movements. Another essential element is learning how attention works. Most people operate on autopilot, distracted by their own thoughts, completely missing what's happening right in front of them. Mind reading demands a conscious shift, a sharpened focus on others. When attention becomes intentional, things that were once invisible suddenly stand out, like the nervous glance of someone hiding anxiety, or the stiffness in a voice trying to sound confident. Developing this kind of awareness isn't just for psychologists or interrogators. It's for everyday life. Whether in a job interview, a first date, or a difficult conversation, the ability to pick up on what's unspoken can dramatically improve communication and build trust faster. People feel seen and understood when someone notices what they're really feeling beneath the surface. Ultimately, mind reading is not about manipulation or control. It's about deepening empathy and creating more honest interactions. When we understand what others are really experiencing, we can respond more appropriately, more kindly, and more effectively. What was once a mysterious, almost magical idea becomes a practical, teachable skill. And with practice, anyone can learn to read the emotional undercurrents of human interaction and navigate the world with a quiet confidence that most never develop. Chapter 2. The Secret Language of the Face. Every human face is a canvas, painted daily with emotions, some bold and unmistakable, others subtle and fleeting. Our facial expressions, whether intentional or reflexive, offer a direct route into the thoughts and feelings of others. While words can deceive, the face often tells the truth, if you know how to read it. The key lies in understanding that the face doesn't just communicate, it broadcasts. From joy to sadness, from anger to contempt, emotional states are constantly being displayed in muscle movements, eyebrow shifts, and the tiniest of twitches around the eyes or lips. These fleeting signals, called microexpressions, may last less than a second, yet they are rich with meaning. And while most people overlook them, the trained observer picks them up like signals in a code. Learning to recognize these expressions starts with the eyes. They are not just windows to the soul but also indicators of interest, truthfulness, and emotional engagement. A person who looks away frequently or blinks too much might be hiding discomfort. On the other hand, widened eyes can reflect surprise, excitement, or fear. It's all about tuning into these silent cues. The eyebrows also play a major role. They rise, lower, draw together, or arch independently, revealing everything from skepticism to empathy. When combined with eye movement, they give powerful clues to what someone is really thinking, even when their words suggest otherwise. Then there's the mouth. A genuine smile, for example, involves more than just the lips. It reaches the eyes and causes specific creases and tension in the cheeks. A forced or polite smile may be limited to the mouth alone. But reading the face isn't about isolating single features. It's about seeing the whole expression, the interplay between different muscle groups that forms what we instinctively recognize as fear, happiness, anger, or sadness. To become fluent in this silent language, it's essential to observe people in real-life settings, conversations, news interviews, or even reality shows. These offer rich, unscripted facial reactions that reveal how people truly feel beneath their social masks. Another aspect to consider is baseline behavior. Every individual has their own normal way of expressing emotions. Some people smile more, others blink less. Before interpreting any signal as meaningful, it's important to know what normal looks like for that person. Only then can deviations be understood accurately. The beauty of facial reading is that it doesn't require mind games or confrontation. It's a quiet awareness, a deeper understanding of how someone's external presentation reflects their internal experience. And when done with empathy, it allows for better timing in conversations, greater emotional intelligence, and stronger personal connections. In daily life, these facial cues are everywhere. They appear when a partner is upset but won't say it, when a colleague disagrees but remains silent, or when a friend lights up at good news. By learning to decode these expressions, communication becomes richer, not just about what is said, but about what is felt. Chapter 3. The body never lies. When words say one thing but the body says another, trust the body. Unlike spoken language, which can be rehearsed, manipulated, or censored, body language is deeply rooted in our subconscious. It reflects our genuine emotions before we even realize what we're feeling. To truly understand others, reading their physical gestures is as essential as listening to their words. Every part of the body contributes to nonverbal communication. Posture, movements, hand gestures, the tilt of the head, and even the way someone uses space, all of it sends powerful signals. For instance, a person who stands upright with open arms is typically projecting confidence or openness, while someone who folds their arms tightly and pulls inward may be signaling defensiveness or discomfort. One of the first elements to observe is posture. A relaxed but straight posture usually conveys self-assurance. Slouching may indicate low energy or disinterest, while an overly stiff stance might suggest tension or anxiety. Watch how people enter a room. Do they take up space, move fluidly, and maintain eye contact? Or do they shrink into themselves, avoiding attention? These cues speak volumes long before any words are exchanged. Another telling signal is proxemics, how individuals use personal space. Everyone has an invisible comfort zone. When someone steps too close, the reaction can be immediate, leaning back, shifting weight, or turning slightly away. These movements aren't rude, they're instinctive responses designed to protect psychological boundaries. By observing how people handle closeness, one can gauge comfort, intimacy, or even power dynamics. Gestures are also rich in meaning. An open palm, for example, is historically linked to honesty and a lack of threat. Crossed arms or clenched fists may suggest resistance or internal conflict. Hands touching the face, rubbing the nose, covering the mouth, or tugging at the ear are often associated with uncertainty or an attempt to self-soothe under stress. But just like with facial expressions, context matters. A person might cross their arms because they're cold, not closed off. The key is to identify clusters of behavior rather than isolated actions. If several gestures align, nervous fidgeting, lack of eye contact, and increased blinking, it likely indicates inner turmoil, regardless of spoken confidence. Legs and feet are perhaps the most overlooked but revealing parts of body language. While people often control their facial expressions or hand gestures consciously, the legs are usually neglected. A foot pointed toward the door may show a desire to leave. Legs tightly crossed or repeatedly bouncing may signal unease or impatience. Crucially, body language should never be used to judge or manipulate others. Instead, it should foster deeper understanding. When we recognize that someone's irritation, withdrawal, or fidgeting might be masking fear or insecurity, we respond with greater empathy. By developing sensitivity to these physical cues, communication becomes multidimensional. Conversations are no longer just verbal exchanges. They become rich landscapes of expression, emotion, and unspoken truth. In a world full of filtered language, the body remains honest. And those who learn to listen with their eyes gain an undeniable advantage in every human interaction. Chapter 4. Senses and Thinking. Every human experience is filtered through the 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. These senses are not just passive receptors. They shape the way individuals think, remember, and communicate. In this chapter, we delve into how sensory preferences influence thought patterns, and how becoming attuned to those preferences can give you a powerful edge in understanding and connecting with others. People process the world differently depending on which of their senses is most dominant. Some are primarily visual thinkers. They remember what they see, prefer diagrams over spoken instructions, and often speak in terms like, "I see what you mean." Others are auditory. They respond more to tone, rhythm, and spoken words, using phrases like, "That sounds right to me." Then there are kinesthetic thinkers who rely on touch, movement, and physical sensations. They tend to say things like, "I feel this is right," or "Let's get a grip on it." Recognizing these patterns is not about placing people in boxes, but about sharpening your awareness. When you know which sensory language someone uses, you can tailor your communication to match. A visual person may respond best to charts and examples they can picture. An auditory person may prefer clear verbal explanations, while a kinesthetic person may need hands-on experience to fully grasp an idea. Speech patterns provide valuable clues. Visual types speak quickly, reflecting the speed with which they process images. They may describe memories as clear or vivid. Auditory thinkers, on the other hand, may pause more often, speaking in a rhythmic manner and focusing on how things sounded or resonated. Kinesthetic individuals may speak slowly, taking time to feel their way through thoughts. Their descriptions are often grounded in physical or emotional terms, words like warm, solid, or comfortable. Eye movement can also reveal which sensory channel a person is using in the moment. When people look up, they're often visualizing. When they look to the side, they may be recalling sounds. And when they look down, they're frequently accessing feelings or internal dialogue. While this isn't a foolproof method, it provides another layer of insight into how people process information. Understanding someone's sensory orientation enhances your ability to connect, explain, persuade, and build rapport. In professional settings, it can improve teamwork, teaching, and negotiation. In personal relationships, it helps you communicate in ways that resonate on a deeper level. Moreover, by identifying your own sensory preference, you can optimize how you study, remember, and solve problems. A visual learner may benefit from mind maps or color-coded notes. An auditory learner might retain more by reading aloud or recording information. A kinesthetic learner might absorb material best through role-play or movement-based exercises. In short, sensing is thinking. The way people take in the world shapes the way they understand it. and by learning to recognize those sensory footprints in others, we begin to uncover the silent architecture of thought, making our communication not just clearer, but more human. Chapter 5. Emotions. Emotions are the invisible drivers behind most human behavior. While logic plays a role in how people make decisions and interact, emotions often sit at the control panel, subtle, powerful, and frequently misunderstood. Understanding the emotional state of others is a crucial part of reading minds, not through supernatural abilities, but through keen observation and emotional awareness. Emotions manifest in the body before they ever surface in words. A clenched jaw, fidgeting fingers, a sudden pause in speech, these are the first whispers of internal feelings trying to express themselves outwardly. Recognizing these signals begins with paying close attention, not only to what someone is saying, but how they are saying it. Tone of voice, posture, pacing, and facial expressions all become part of the emotional language. Facial expressions, in particular, are among the most universal indicators of emotion. Whether it's a furrowed brow indicating confusion or concern, a slight upturn of the lips suggesting amusement, or a fleeting twitch around the eyes betraying discomfort, these micro-expressions are often faster than thought. They appear involuntarily and vanish within a fraction of a second, making them easy to miss but incredibly revealing when noticed. Breathing patterns also shift in response to emotions. Shallow, rapid breaths may point to anxiety or tension, while slow, deep breathing can indicate calmness or deliberate control. The rhythm of someone's breath, combined with posture and speech tempo, paints a clearer picture of their internal state. But observing emotions is only half the equation. Interpreting them accurately requires context. A person's background, their environment, and the conversation's topic all color the emotion being expressed. The same frown may mean anger, concentration, or even sadness, depending on the setting. Therefore, reading emotions is not about jumping to conclusions but staying present, alert, and open to multiple interpretations. Emotional congruence is another key concept. This occurs when someone's words align with their emotional expressions. When someone says, "I'm fine," but avoids eye contact, crosses their arms, and speaks in a flat tone, their body may be telling a different story. Spotting such incongruence allows you to look beneath surface-level responses and ask more meaningful questions or offer deeper support. Understanding emotions isn't just about others, it's also about you. By becoming more aware of your own emotional responses and triggers, you strengthen your ability to read others without projecting your own feelings onto them. Emotional clarity begins with self-awareness and extends into social awareness. In human interaction, emotions speak even when words are silent. They are not separate from logic or language but woven through every sentence, gesture, and glance. Mastering the subtle art of observing emotion is not about manipulation, it's about connection, learning to hear what's not being said, to understand without judgment, and to respond with empathy. When you listen with your eyes, your ears, and your heart, you begin to see emotions not as a mystery, but as a language, and like any language, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. Chapter 6. It's never too late. In every journey toward understanding others, one truth remains constant: change is always possible, no matter how old you are, how long you've misunderstood people, or how unaware you've been of your own social blind spots. This chapter presents a touching moral tale that reminds us that transformation can occur at any point in life if one is open to learning and growth. The story centers on a man named Harold, a retired engineer who spent most of his life focused on facts, formulas, and machines. Social interaction, emotional expression, and interpersonal subtleties had always felt alien to him. People often misunderstood him as cold or indifferent, not because he lacked care, but because he lacked the skills to communicate it. After retirement, Harold began to notice something missing. Though he had a lifetime of achievements behind him, he felt disconnected from those around him, his family, friends, even neighbors. That's when he stumbled upon a lecture about nonverbal communication. What started as curiosity soon turned into a life-changing pursuit. Harold began studying human behavior, not through textbooks, but through everyday observation. He paid attention to how people smiled, frowned, shifted their weight, or avoided eye contact. He realized that the clues were always there. He had just never learned to notice them. Slowly, he began practicing. He asked questions, listened carefully, and observed without judgment. One powerful moment came when his granddaughter, Anna, was visiting. She seemed quieter than usual, her usual bright energy dimmed. In the past, Harold might have dismissed it or awkwardly changed the subject. But this time, he noticed her voice was softer, her shoulders slumped slightly, and she wasn't making eye contact. Instead of retreating, he gently asked, "Is everything okay, Anna? You don't seem quite yourself." To his surprise, tears welled up in her eyes. She opened up about a problem at school that had been troubling her. That simple act of recognition, of seeing beyond her words, opened a door between them that had never existed before. This moral tale emphasizes that no matter your background or age, it is never too late to become more emotionally attuned, to repair relationships, or to understand people better. It's a reminder that reading minds isn't about psychic tricks. It's about presence, compassion, and the willingness to try, even after years of being out of touch. The story of Harold is not unique. Many people live for decades without realizing how much they miss in daily interactions. But once you begin the journey of understanding, of truly observing and listening, a new world opens. It's not too late to start today. Whether you're young or old, experienced or a beginner, emotional intelligence can be cultivated. This chapter gently urges every listener, don't let age or past mistakes become barriers. Begin now, however small the steps. Because the ability to truly connect is not a gift given at birth, it's a skill earned with attention, empathy, and effort. Chapter 7. Contradictory Signs and What They Mean. In human communication, the body and the mouth don't always say the same thing. This chapter unpacks a fascinating truth. People often display mixed signals, gestures, expressions, or tones that contradict their spoken words. These contradictions are not random. They are clues. And learning to read them can dramatically improve your understanding of others. Imagine someone saying, "I'm fine," while nervously rubbing their palms on their thighs, avoiding eye contact, or clenching their jaw. The words say one thing, but the body whispers another truth. This is the essence of contradictory signs, moments when what is shown and what is said do not match. Contradictions usually arise when a person is experiencing inner conflict. They might be trying to hide fear, discomfort, or even dishonesty. For example, a person might smile politely while subtly stepping back from you. The smile indicates friendliness, but the backward motion signals hesitation or unease. Rather than assuming the smile is genuine, a trained observer pauses to consider the mismatch. One of the most common contradictory signals occurs between facial expressions and vocal tone. A person might express excitement with their words, but their tone may lack energy or conviction. In such cases, the voice often reveals more than the statement itself. Another layer of contradiction lies in gestures. Someone might say they agree with you, but their arms remain tightly crossed, or their fingers tap restlessly on a table. These signals suggest reservation, tension, or disagreement, even when the verbal message seems cooperative. Importantly, contradictions are not always signs of deceit. Often, they are signs of stress, confusion, or a desire to avoid conflict. A person might want to appear strong while feeling vulnerable, or they might be trying to spare someone's feelings. Understanding this complexity can help you interpret contradictions with empathy rather than suspicion. Context is critical. A single gesture out of place doesn't always mean something is wrong. But when multiple signals don't align, especially when they contradict the spoken message, it's worth paying closer attention. Looking at body language clusters, sets of gestures that appear together, helps reduce misinterpretation. For instance, a person who avoids eye contact, fidgets, and gives short, clipped answers is more likely expressing discomfort than someone who just crosses their arms. Also, be aware of cultural influences. Some gestures and expressions may have different meanings in different societies. What looks like nervousness in one culture may simply be a norm of modest behavior in another. The power of this chapter lies in encouraging the listener to become more attuned to subtle inconsistencies, not to judge, but to observe more fully. contradictory signs offer an opportunity for deeper understanding. They reveal the layers behind what people say and allow for more meaningful connection. Mastering this aspect of communication doesn't mean calling people out or making assumptions. It means watching, listening, and gently adjusting your responses. With practice, you begin to hear what's unspoken and see what's hidden between words, and that's when communication becomes truly profound. Chapter 8. How you flirt without even knowing it. Flirting isn't always a conscious act. In fact, much of it happens without a word being spoken, or even without the person doing it realizing it's happening. This chapter reveals how everyday behaviors, gestures, and expressions can send subtle signals of interest, attraction, and even desire, whether or not the individual intends them. It begins with a simple premise: human beings are wired for connection. From an evolutionary perspective, body language is one of the oldest tools for signaling reproductive readiness and social bonding. Over time, those signals became more refined, yet many of them remain instinctual and universal. That's why people often find themselves drawn to others, or drawing attention, without uttering a single flirtatious phrase. One of the most common unconscious flirting cues is prolonged eye contact. When two people maintain eye contact just a little longer than usual, it can spark an emotional or physical connection. A soft gaze, subtle pupil dilation, or a slight head tilt can all suggest interest. These cues don't necessarily mean romantic intent. They could simply signal openness, curiosity, or comfort, but in the right context, they become powerful indicators of attraction. Mirroring is another key behavior. Without realizing it, someone may start mimicking another person's posture, gestures, or speaking pace. This subconscious synchronization signals rapport and emotional alignment. When two people are in sync, it often feels like chemistry, because it is, at least behaviorally. Touch is another potent form of nonverbal flirting. A brief touch on the arm during conversation, a playful nudge, or brushing lint off someone's jacket might seem innocent. But in many social contexts, these micro-touches serve as tests for intimacy and receptiveness. If the touch is accepted, the interaction may deepen. If it's rejected or ignored, the boundary is respected. Laughter also plays a role in subtle flirting. When someone laughs more than necessary, especially at jokes that aren't particularly funny, it can be a sign of admiration or an attempt to connect. It's not just about humor, it's about bonding and validation. People also signal interest by adjusting their appearance. This includes straightening posture, smoothing clothing, or tucking hair behind the ear. These gestures, though small, are often involuntary responses to someone we want to impress or attract. Even changes in vocal tone, like speaking more softly or using a more melodic pitch, can signal unconscious flirtation. Importantly, context always matters. A smile might be friendliness in one setting and flirtation in another. The key is not to assign meaning to isolated behaviors, but to observe patterns and consistency. Unconscious flirting is often a collection of signals that, when interpreted together, form a clearer picture of intent. Recognizing these signs isn't just about romance, it's about becoming more attuned to social dynamics. Whether in the workplace, at a party, or in everyday interactions, these behaviors influence how people connect, relate, and respond to one another. By understanding how we flirt, often without meaning to, listeners become better equipped to navigate relationships with awareness, confidence, and authenticity. Chapter 9. Methods of Suggestion and Undetectable Influence. Influence is everywhere, woven into conversations, advertisements, social cues, and even silence. But some of the most powerful forms of influence are the ones we hardly notice. This chapter explores the subtle methods of suggestion and how people can be influenced without being fully aware it's happening. At the heart of undetectable influence lies the principle of suggestion. Suggestion doesn't require direct commands. Instead, it uses implication, subtle wording, and body language to steer a person's thoughts or actions. A skilled communicator doesn't tell you what to think, they guide you gently to think it on your own. One of the most effective tools of suggestion is presupposition. It works by embedding assumptions into a statement, making the listener accept the hidden idea without questioning it. For example, if someone asks, Which of these two ideas do you like better? The question assumes you already like one of them. Your mind skips over the idea of rejection and jumps straight to choosing. Another technique is mirroring language and behavior, a method that creates trust and familiarity. When someone subtly mirrors another person's gestures, posture, or speech patterns, it creates a subconscious sense of connection. The mirrored individual often feels more comfortable, open, and receptive without knowing why. Priming is also a powerful, invisible force. This involves exposing someone to certain words, images, or experiences that influence their subsequent behavior or decisions. For instance, a person who reads words related to cleanliness might later choose a cleaning product over a snack, simply because the idea of cleanliness is already planted in their mind. Priming doesn't require awareness, it functions quietly in the background. Framing is closely related. How a message is presented changes how it's perceived. Saying, 90% fat-free, sounds more appealing than, contains 10% fat, even though both statements mean the same thing. The choice of words frames the emotional and psychological impact of the information. Another subtle method is using ambiguity to invite interpretation. Instead of delivering a direct message, a communicator might leave certain words or gestures open-ended, encouraging the listener to fill in the blanks with their own assumptions. Because the listener is doing the mental work, the idea feels more personal and convincing. Even tone of voice and pauses can be suggestive. A slight hesitation before a word, or an emphasized syllable, can hint at deeper meaning or guide attention. These vocal cues can be more persuasive than the words themselves. Importantly, these techniques are not inherently manipulative. They're used daily in marketing, leadership, therapy, and even parenting. The real power lies in awareness. Knowing how suggestion works allows individuals to both recognize influence and use it responsibly. By understanding the mechanics of suggestion and invisible influence, listeners become more conscious of how thoughts and decisions are shaped, not only by others but by themselves. This awareness strengthens communication, sharpens critical thinking, and builds emotional intelligence in everyday interactions. Chapter 10. How to plant and trigger emotional states. Emotions drive human behavior more than logic ever could. Whether it's in relationships, marketing, or negotiation, people make decisions based on how they feel in the moment, even when they think they're being rational. This chapter explores how emotional states can be intentionally planted and triggered, often without the other person's conscious awareness. Planting an emotional state begins with anchoring. This involves associating a specific emotion with a particular gesture, word, or environmental cue. Once this association is formed, the anchor can be reactivated later to bring about the same emotion. It's the same mechanism behind why a certain song might make someone feel nostalgic, or why a scent can instantly bring back a childhood memory. Anchoring uses the brain's natural ability to form connections between experience and stimulus. For instance, if someone repeatedly feels encouraged every time you lightly touch their shoulder during a motivating conversation, that touch may later evoke confidence, even in a different context. The more emotionally intense the original moment, the stronger the anchor becomes. Skilled communicators create anchors deliberately, by combining timing, emotional intensity, and repetition. Closely related is the method of state priming. This involves preparing someone mentally or emotionally before delivering a message. For example, starting a meeting with a light joke or a personal success story can prime others to feel open, positive, and receptive. Conversely, highlighting problems or fears might create anxiety or urgency, depending on the intended outcome. The emotional state people are in directly shapes how they interpret and react to information. Language choice also plays a crucial role. Words carry emotional weight. Saying, "You're unstoppable," has a different emotional impact than, "You're doing okay." Strong emotional words, metaphorical language, and storytelling all act as emotional triggers that bypass logic and speak directly to the heart. When timed correctly, this emotional impact becomes unforgettable and persuasive. Another technique is using emotional contrast. By first taking someone through a negative or challenging emotional state, such as recalling a painful memory, you can then guide them toward a more uplifting one. This contrast heightens the emotional payoff, making the positive state feel more intense and satisfying. It's a method often used in motivational speeches and therapeutic interventions. Visual and sensory cues can also be powerful. A change in lighting, a meaningful object, or even body language can evoke emotional responses. A confident stance, a warm smile, or prolonged eye contact all plant seeds of emotional states such as trust, excitement, or even desire. Importantly, these techniques should be used with care. Manipulating emotions irresponsibly can lead to distrust and emotional harm. But when used ethically, emotional triggering becomes a powerful tool for support, motivation, and connection. Ultimately, understanding how to plant and trigger emotional states allows individuals to shape not just conversations but experiences. It gives them the ability to uplift others, build deep connections, and create emotional environments where communication becomes more effective, authentic, and memorable. Chapter 11. Impressive Demonstrations/Party Tricks. Imagine being at a social event, surrounded by conversations and laughter, when someone suddenly performs an uncanny mental feat, guessing a number you're thinking of, revealing a detail about your past without asking, or subtly influencing a decision you just made. These are not acts of magic or mind reading in the supernatural sense. They are grounded in psychology, observation, and refined communication techniques. This chapter introduces simple yet powerful demonstrations, what some may call party tricks, that reveal the principles of nonverbal communication and psychological influence in action. These demonstrations serve two main purposes. First, to show how much information can be gleaned from subtle behavioral cues, and second, to capture attention and establish credibility. They are, in essence, practical exercises wrapped in entertainment. The effectiveness lies in creating a moment of surprise or awe that opens people's minds to the deeper science behind what just happened. One common method involves cold reading. This is the ability to make accurate statements about someone without prior knowledge of them. It's based on reading physical appearance, posture, tone, clothing, and micro-expressions. For instance, the way someone sits can reveal whether they are confident or reserved. Observing how they respond to a casual compliment might suggest their current emotional state. With enough practice, even minute gestures, like how someone holds their cup or glances at a watch, become signals that reveal personality traits or mental habits. Another technique is influencing choices. By subtly suggesting certain ideas through priming, a person can guide others towards specific answers while making them believe it was their own decision. For example, emphasizing certain words or subtly nodding when mentioning one option over another can push someone to choose that option without conscious awareness. This is especially striking when revealed afterward. You could have picked any number, but you chose 7, right? One entertaining yet educational demonstration involves the power of suggestion. The communicator may guide someone into imagining they are holding a heavy object in one hand and a light balloon in the other, without touching anything. Through words and tone, the subject often begins to feel the physical effects, their arms responding accordingly. This reveals how imagination, language, and suggestion can directly affect bodily sensations, reinforcing the connection between the mind and the body. Such demonstrations work not because the performer is reading minds, but because they are reading signals, and responding in a way that seems magical to the untrained eye. The audience experiences what seems impossible, yet it's rooted in everyday psychology. The real skill lies not in deception, but in heightened awareness. Importantly, these techniques should be used to educate and inspire, not manipulate or embarrass. When shared respectfully, they can be powerful tools to engage others in the study of communication and influence. They awaken curiosity and encourage people to look more closely at what others say, how they say it, and what remains unsaid. In the end, these so-called party tricks are more than entertainment. They're a doorway into a deeper understanding of human nature. Chapter 12. Mind Reading. The idea of reading someone's mind has long belonged to the realm of fantasy, magic, or the supernatural. But in truth, the concept of mind reading is not about telepathy or mystical powers. It is about learning to observe, analyze, and interpret the endless stream of clues that human beings constantly, though unconsciously, give away. Every movement, expression, word choice, pause, and reaction tells a story. If you know how to listen, how to look, and how to feel the rhythm of human interaction, you can come startlingly close to understanding what someone is thinking or feeling, even without a single word being spoken. This final chapter brings together all the skills and insights shared throughout the book into a single, powerful ability: psychological mind reading. It is not about tricks, nor about manipulation. It is about connection. It starts with empathy, the capacity to place yourself in another's position. From there, it grows through deliberate practice, refining your observational skills, listening more than speaking, and learning how to read both verbal and nonverbal cues in real time. True mind reading begins with calibration. You must understand a person's normal baseline behavior, the way they typically speak, move, and respond. Only then can you notice when something shifts. A delay in answering a question. A tightening of the jaw. A subtle change in breathing. These deviations can signal discomfort, excitement, doubt, or even hidden truths. To the unaware, these changes go unnoticed. But to someone attuned to them, they're as loud as spoken words. Next comes mirroring, not just imitating someone's posture or expressions, but emotionally aligning with their internal state. When done sincerely, this helps build trust and rapport. People naturally feel more connected to those who reflect their rhythm and emotional tone. This connection often leads others to open up, offering more information both consciously and subconsciously. Verbal cues are just as telling. The specific words people use, their tone, their pace, all offer insights into their mental and emotional state. Repeated use of I think versus I feel may reveal a more analytical or emotional mindset. Frequent self-corrections or qualifiers, like maybe or sort of, might hint at insecurity or deception. Perhaps the most surprising part of effective mind reading is that it often works because people want to be understood. Most individuals long for connection. They want someone to see past the surface and recognize what's really going on inside. When someone does this, without judgment or manipulation, it creates an extraordinary bond. By the end of this journey, the concept of mind reading should no longer feel mystical. Instead, it should feel human, grounded in observation, empathy, and refined awareness. This ability doesn't belong to the gifted few. It can be learned, practiced, and mastered by anyone who genuinely wants to understand others better. In truth, what we call mind reading is simply deep listening with the eyes, the ears, and the heart. And in a world so often filled with noise, the ability to truly see and hear another person is perhaps the most extraordinary skill of all. Conclusion. As we reach the end of this insightful journey into the art of reading minds, one truth stands out. The power to understand others is not reserved for magicians or mind readers. It is available to all of us. Through conscious observation, emotional awareness, and practiced empathy, anyone can unlock the ability to interpret the silent language of human behavior. What you've explored is more than a set of psychological tricks or clever techniques. It's a new lens through which to view the world, one that reveals deeper layers beneath every word, gesture, and silence. Whether in personal relationships, social situations, or professional settings, this awareness can transform the way you connect with others. The real power is not in controlling people, but in understanding them. Because when people feel truly seen and heard, they respond with trust, honesty, and openness. In a world increasingly driven by distraction and surface-level communication, your ability to read between the lines will set you apart. So, carry this knowledge with humility and care. Use it to build bridges, not walls. And remember, the more you understand others, the more you'll understand yourself. That is the true essence of reading minds. Enjoyed this journey into the hidden language of the mind? Don't stop here. Like this video if you found the insights valuable. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful audiobook summaries that sharpen your mind and elevate your life. Comment below. What's one body language tip or emotional key you'll start observing more consciously? Remember, understanding others is the first step to mastering communication. Share this video with a friend and unlock the art of reading minds together.